Hey, what's up, everybody? So I don't have a lot of time today. It's a little different stuff going on here at work, but I got about 15 minutes so I can make a quick video. And since I've been talking about different signs that the Lord has been showing us through people's lives, I felt like what I've been paying attention to the last 3 or 4 days deserved about as much conversation as any. So first of all, I want to send my condolences to a young African American rapper named FGB Duck out of Chicago. Lost his life, and you know, it's one of those things where we anybody that's paying attention to what's going on in Chicago, even from afar, like I am, understands that the culture out there is very, very, very much enriched in murder and gang violence, and basically the spirit of revenge is everywhere there. Like it's just a spirit of revenge. I've known it, known that spirit because I grew up in LA, and that gang violence, revenge energy is pretty much the exact same thing that I remember just being around in this area, this environment, especially as a kid, early '90s. So I guess when I started really being conscious, I say like mid '90s, the Tupac, when like Tupac and Biggie era. That's when I started really paying attention to what was going on around me in LA, particularly, and it's just a lot of revenge, man, a lot of gang violence, and with gang violence and revenge, poverty, desperation, generations of just being uh, ignorant, not having the proper guidance to get you out of those circumstances, and just everything else that comes with it that I don't understand and won't pretend to understand, makes it for a very, very unsafe environment for a lot of people. And I know that Chicago and the state of Illinois has its safe parts, so I don't want to pretend to know an area that I don't know that well. I've only been once, but it's real bad out there, and they need a whole lot of support. And this is just one more situation, but I think what makes this make sense in terms of what I'm talking about is FBG Duck. Just maybe a week ago, this young fella came out with a song called "Dead Bitches." Excuse my language, but that's the name of the song. And on the song, he was being very, 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 very disrespectful to people in a rival gang who had passed away, who had been murdered. He was naming names. Now we know, if you follow hip hop, you know that songs with disrespect within it, or that are felt and understood to be real conflicts, real beef. You know for a fact that this isn't necessarily new in terms of having that kind of thing exist. But to this level, I'm telling you, I've been here for 36 years on this earth, and I've maybe only heard one or two songs that were as disrespectful as "Dead Bitches." And I mean, he was talking about people who had lost their lives. Some of these people weren't even grown. Like, some of these people were kids. Two of them were women. That's why the song is called "Dead Bitches," because at the end, like the kicker, the drive home point was two women who had passed away from a rival gang that he said some extremely disrespectful things about. The thing I want people to understand, that I understand, is that the culture of dissing the dead to us is just beyond. It's unthinkable, even for some of the individuals who are from raw environments and from street environments. They live by such a code to where once somebody's dead, the conflict is over. Once they pass away, all that they owed is paid, etc., etc. A lot of people live by that code, but in that environment, in that particular world, they make fun of each other left and right after somebody's passed, because a lot of times that's the culture. That's what's been going on. It's not like they're making fun of people who haven't made fun of people. The whole culture makes fun of the dead when they, and it's driven by revenge. You got to understand, people have lost a lot of friends on both sides, just like in any gang war. And over time, you lose respect for life. You lose respect for your environment. Hell, as the kid described it, as Duck described it, you feel like he in hell anyway. Like, they already feel like they're in hell, and that part of the song resonated with me pretty strong, because it makes sense. When you don't have any aspirations for things to get better, you don't think about fearing the afterlife or fearing circumstances getting worse, and you already think it's about as bad as it's going to get, hell yeah, you're gonna be as raw as some of these individuals are out there, man. You gotta respect the environments and the circumstances for which a lot of things are happening. Monsters are created in horrible, horrible environments, and we have to remember that if we want to cleanse environments, it's not just incumbent upon us to cleanse the neighborhoods, but we have to invest in the communities, into the people, if you really want to see these type of things get better. And but the Lord showed me, I guess what I'm trying to tie this into is the Lord has shown me and anybody who's paying attention through various people's lives over the last 3 weeks that these are 3 examples that I've seen, and probably more that I don't know anything about. But Jonathan Isaac with the knee, Herman Cain passing away of COVID/cancer right after, basically saying nobody should wear any mask. And now this kid Duck, who just made fun of all kinds of people who've already lost their lives. Mothers who are still mourning are hearing that song. People who are not in those environments, people who don't know anything about those areas are singing this song because it's catchy and really disrespecting individuals who are no longer with us. And just the tone from which he spoke, the sarcasm in it all, it ultimately created a circumstance for which he no longer existed. Now, I'm not saying that this is what got him killed, because there's no way for me to know that. But what I can say, when you put yourself in a position to hurt people that bad, on that deep of a level, to where you are going to throw their grief in their faces and dare them to come get you, you are dealing with forces that you cannot control nor truly understand. As a spiritual person, I think about it like this. Not only are you making fun of the dead, but in this particular environment, you are making fun of people's spirits who probably did not go to a very good place in their afterlife. They probably were doing the same things you were doing, pushing out the same energy you were, and in doing so, if you believe in such a thing, you are attaching yourself to whatever energy they are now a part of. When you talk about dead spirits who were no good, you disrespecting any dead person is it's a spiritual violation. But when you speak out against those who are damned, you are asking to be damned as well. And that's just something I believe. I don't have any scripture to back that up. I don't have any proof of that. It's just an inside belief. It's an inner spiritual belief that I just feel. But you don't want to play with spirits and forces that are not good if your intentions are just skin deep. You want to disrespect some people. You want to stir up some mess or what have you, or continue a war. What you're reaching for, you're going to grab back a lot more than what it is that you actually think you're going to grab. And that's what I think happened there. And the Lord is showing us again, don't make fun of the dead. Don't go around leading other people in directions that can ultimately hurt them. Don't turn your back on people that are supporting you because you want to somehow stand alone in pushing your own agenda, while there are others who are fighting for you, who both look like you and don't look like you, who are hoping to save your life in their sacrifices and their actions toward doing what they're doing. You can't turn on those people and expect the Lord to be happy with you. You can't make fun of the dead and expect the Lord to be happy with you. You can't tell people not to wear masks in a pandemic and expect the Lord to be happy with you. These are the things that I'm learning through the circumstances around me. And yes, people will tell me these are coincidences and they don't believe, and that's fine. But you don't have to believe in order for God's will to take place. He doesn't need your cooperation to see things through. Either you're going to read what he's trying to tell you or you're not. It's that simple. It has literally nothing to do with what we want to believe. This is him communicating with us. Either you're paying attention or you're not. So what I've also want to kind of share as well in regards to FGB Duck was that FGB Duck came out with a song called Chicago Legends. And in Chicago Legends, it appeared as if he was attempting to show solidarity toward his ops, his rival gang. He was talking about legendary people who came out of his city on both sides. And I listened to the song. It sounded like not necessarily a peace offering, but just like a something that's bigger than us. This is for Chicago. This is something that's for all of us to understand, and all of the people around who pay attention to us to know who we celebrate, regardless of which side we're on. And it felt like something that could lead to peace. And in the song Dead Bitches, he comes out at the beginning of the song before he even disses anybody and says that was all about the money. In other words, I have no interest in peace. Y'all want to kick up dust against me, for which did take place. From what I understand, like I said, it's a back and forth that's been going on in any gang war. Nothing you're seeing is the first blow. These are like punch number 89. Okay, so that's something y'all gotta understand. For those who are not a part of that world, whatever it is that you see, this fight been going on for a long time, just like a lot of wars. And it's back and forth. So a lot of people have lost their lives, et cetera, et cetera. So people had been jarring at him. From what I understand, some of his ops were trying to, do what they do, which is antagonize and ultimately try to get him. And I guess he succumbed to that and just said, you know what, I got to come back out and hit him hard, I understand that FGB Duck, his mother is now buried her second son. His cousin had also passed away. It's just a devastating era in their world over there in Chicago, man. And they got a lot of talented brothers, extremely influential on our youth. And their culture is so warped and so vicious and so demonic that it almost looks like they're too far gone. Now, if I weren't from Los Angeles and have seen miracles, like literal miracles, right before my very eyes, with rival crews coming together over the last 18 months after Nipsey passed away, rival crews that have been beefing for longer than I've been alive, killed more people than I could probably count in a day, like that type of thing, to see that gives you hope for stuff that just doesn't seem to have a solution. And that's one of those things. So I have hope, but like LA, they may have to go through 40 years of that nonsense before they grow out of it. And that's a lot of deaths. It's a whole lot of death. So that's what I want to say, man. I just want to send some prayers out to Chicago, Chirac, everybody out there, all the savages. And I would say, if you got family in Chicago, like truly, and you have a little money, you got to try to get them out of there, man. I don't, like I said, I don't pretend to know Chicago politics or how things go down. I listened to FGB Duck on why he didn't leave Chicago, obviously in a interview that was done previous to all of this. And he basically said, he doesn't trust leaving home, just like a lot of us don't. Even though they say these environments are horrible, it's his and horrible. It's the devil he knew, basically, is the way he described it. Like, he doesn't trust moving to LA, moving to New York or whatever. He'd rather be around his people, and as bad as it is, it's his bad, so to speak, and he can handle it. And it got him killed. And I think about everybody else from Chicago that has made it out of that drill scene. All them youngsters live somewhere else. Damn near all of them. And the ones who didn't move somewhere else, they've succumbed. A lot of them. They lose people so much, as we know. And it's just the culture out there is so freaking twisted. Like, y'all gotta understand, they celebrate killing their ops, so to speak, the other side. Death doesn't end the battle. Then they smoke weed to toast it out. Like out here in the West Coast, yeah, I've heard of people dissing the dead for sure. Especially when it's ugly. When it's wartime, yeah, for sure. But you don't hear it on nationally played songs that are going to be listened to in Iowa, where guys are literally naming gang members who passed away and saying that they, saying disrespectful things about them. That's a different level. And the demonstration that was put on when he was shot in the middle of a prestigious, ritzy kind of area in Chicago, right in front of a very, very prestigious type of store, like a Coach store or something like that. Blew the whole windows out shooting at this dude and his boy. I'm telling you, that was a demonstration to me that seemed as if it was a direct response to this. Now, what I will say is, I heard somebody else's theory say they thought it may be an inside job. And what I say to that is, FGB Duck created the perfect alibi for anyone on his side that wanted him dead. Why? Because he came out with a song that would make it so that everybody on the other side would want him dead. and that's the perfect time to strike. So I don't put it past nobody to do anything. Any type of corruption is possible, especially in the streets. Um, and you know, they got him. They really got that dude. And there's a lot of people who aren't sad about it, and that's just part of the culture. But me personally, I feel terrible about any African American losing their life to gang violence, especially when it's done in an environment that I know, if they could just understand some things differently, then they can come to a conclusion that they don't have enemies that look like them, but more so enemies that don't. And those enemies too have automatic rifles and guns ready to shoot their heads off as well. So it would be wise to stop shooting each other and maybe focus on what needs to happen for the greater good of all of us. But you know, it takes a long time to get people to have hope after they've lived in an environment like that. It takes a long time for people to forgive one another when so many people have already died. We can all come to terms with what we need to do for reparations, peace, ending racism, and all that. But if we don't reach those kids, there's still going to be a great facet of our country, our community, that's still going to be at war with one another, even when peace is reached. And that's why it's important that we have all conversations, because we're still going to have problems when we overcome whatever it is that we're trying to fight in this Black Lives Matter situation. This is not something that we can avoid at all, because we're continuing to lose people. So that's what I got to say, man. Rest in peace to FGB Duck. Rest in peace to everybody who lost their lives in lieu, is that a word? Leading up to that. Anything of any kind, any mother that ever cried in violence of their child, anything like that, you ain't gonna get no disrespect here. I've lost people to violence. I know what time it is with that. It's not something you play with. And I certainly share sentiments with those who are offended. You know what I mean? In terms of hearing that song and realizing that their loved ones are being spoken of in that manner. I share that sentiment. I don't know how I would go forward if I were in that world and that was my circumstance. Like, you know, I don't think I would feel very much for Duck right now, to be completely honest with you. And that's something to think about when we do certain things, leaving our legacy a certain way, talking about people the way that we do. That stuff is going to outlast us. A lot of, especially in this social media area, a lot of these things that we do, we're not going to see the end of them, but others will be speaking of us and how we handled what we did. So just keep that in mind, man. Keep your legacy in mind as you move. And my name is BDF. I got to get going, but I thank you guys for listening. And again, my condolences to anyone in Chiraq, anyone who lost somebody to gang violence in general. World peace. BDF.